It's time for a team reveal. Game Week 1 is almost upon us, so in this video, I'm going to share my latest draft and my thought process behind the team. Let's get into it. So starting with goalkeepers, now I've gone for Petrovic in goal. Now this is an interesting one because I think he's being really overlooked. Obviously, Bournemouth have lost a couple of key players in defence, but I don't think the drop-off is going to be as bad as people are suggesting it is. Bournemouth conceded the same amount of goals as Nottingham Forest last season. So for all the praise, rightly so, that Forest have got for their defence last season, Bournemouth conceded the same amount of goals as them. And he's 4.5, while Sales is 5. Now, if you save that 0.5 mil, even if there is a drop-off in defence and Bournemouth concede some more goals, he can still provide value. Now, the other option that obviously people are looking at is Kelleher. Now, for all the uncertainty there is around Bournemouth, well, there's also uncertainty around Brentford. Obviously, Liverpool away in Game Week 1 is not ideal, and I do expect Kelleher to outscore Petrovic in that game. It could quite easily be a 0-pointer. But I think over a season, I think he is the better option. Now, my 4 million goalkeeper on the bench is Kinski. He's very popular at the moment because a lot of people are suggesting that he might take the number 1 spot off of Vicario. Now, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. If it does, great. He's a 4 million goalkeeper that's playing that I can rotate. But if not, he's only a 4 million keeper. I'll just keep him on my bench and I'm happy to play Petrovic every week. It's only a goalkeeper position. You don't need to spend more than 8.5 in my opinion, because the goalkeepers, they don't score as many points as your outfield players. So I think just save a bit of money here. Okay, so moving on to the defenders. Now I'm going to start with Tarkowski, who I think at 5.5 million is an absolute no-brainer. Everton have a really solid defence, but also the way they defend, they absorb pressure, which means that he gets a lot of defensive contributions as well. And that's going to play a massive part in FPL this season. So you couple those defensive contributions with his clean sheet potential at Everton, he could provide value over those 6 mil defenders, and that's why I've got him in my team. And then I've got Van der Ven in defence, who's 4.5. Now, he's got good opening fixtures, he's cheap, he's nailed on unlike some of the other Tottenham players. And I do think there's going to be some defensive improvement from Tottenham this season. I will say though, he's not locked in because Tottenham were really poor last season defensively, obviously, but also the stats back that up. They were 17th for expected goals against. So unless there's some real improvement in the opening game weeks, I think he might be a quick transfer out. So I'm a little bit cautious there. But at the moment, he's in my starting 11. Burnley at home obviously is a great fixture for him. So that's sort of playing some part in the decision. So at the moment he's locked in, but by no means certain. Then I've got Wan-Bissaka, who's another player that I think is very popular, and I don't think he would be as popular if he didn't have Sunderland away in Game Week 1, but I will say he's in my team because I do think there is some value there. This is a stat that blew my mind, and I'm sure it might blow yours. Wan-Bissaka scored more points than Gabriel last season. So for all the talk of how good Arsenal were defensively and how much Gabriel was a threat from set pieces, Wan-Bissaka still outscored him, and West Ham were pretty awful last season defensively. So for 4.5, I think he is good value, but in that West Ham defence, he's probably just going to be on my bench most weeks, but he's still a good rotation option in those easier fixtures. And that's why I've got him playing in Game Week 1. Speaking of Gabriel, I've got him at the front of my bench. I'm not playing him in Game Week 1 because I'm not entirely convinced of a clean sheet against United away. But in my mind, Leeds at home in Game Week 2 is just a nailed on clean sheet for me. And I must admit, that's playing a massive part in my decision making because Arsenal's fixtures outside of Game Week 2 aren't that great. So I am considering Vardiol, who has great opening fixtures. But for now, Gabriel was snuck into the team. If he doesn't haul in Game Week 2, then I think I might have made a mistake. So my biggest gamble at the back is actually Senesi, who sat at the back of my bench for Game Week 1 for obvious reasons. I've got him in for similar reasons to Petrovic. I think people are really overlooking Bournemouth's defence. Senesi was not dropped before Haaland came into that team. He was actually playing really well, he just got injured. But then because Haaland played so well, it meant that Senesi couldn't get back into the team. If you look at his stats for the 23-24 season, in 26 starts he got 4 goals, 5 assists, and 6 clean sheets. So he's averaging a return over 50% of the games in that season. He's also averaging 9.4 defensive contributions per 90, so he could be a little hidden gem this season. And that's why he snuck into my team. It's not because I'm a Bournemouth fan, I promise. I just think there could be an opportunity there. So why not other 6 mil defenders? Well, Liverpool have tough fixtures and I'm not certain of any of their players' minutes outside of Van Dijk. So that's just why I've not opted for Liverpool. Vardiol I do think is the best option for clean sheets this season and for minutes in Man City. But he doesn't really have a lot of goal threat or a lot of defensive contributions just because City don't defend that much. They obviously keep the ball a lot and that does hurt his appeal for me. Outside of Vardiol for the other 6 mil options in Man City, I just don't think I'm going to go anywhere near them because I'm not 100% of their minutes and it's just going to really frustrate me if they don't start. Now other 4.5 mil options are interesting to me because you've got the likes of Konsa, Anderson, De Kuyper, and I'm not entirely locked in on any of my 4.5 mil defenders. So for now I've got these 3 4.5 mils in my team, but that can all change by game week 1. And I just want to mention quickly the 4 mil defenders because a lot of people have opted to go with a 4 mil defense on their bench to save a bit of money and spread that money in attack. I don't actually think that's a good way to play it because for an extra 0.5 mil, you get a decent defender in a much better team and it gives you so many more rotation options. I don't want to be stuck with a 4 mil defender and then have to play them if a couple of players get injured. Whereas if you have those rotation options, all of a sudden your team looks really good. In previous years, having a 4 mil defender on my bench has just created a lot of problems for me, so it's just not a strategy that I'll be going for this season. Moving on to midfielders. Now I'll start with my only premium midfielder that I have in this draft, and that is Saka. Now Saka is obviously never going to be a bad option. There is an argument to be made that if he loses penalties to Gyökeres, that he's a worse option, but he's always been consistent and he's got Leeds at home in game week 2, and I just think that could be a huge haul for him. Couple that with the fact that he is more differential, I'm willing to take the risk against Salah and Palmer in the opening few game weeks. Now, the next player I want to talk about is Salah, who I think at 6.5 is absolutely amazing value. I personally cannot see why he's not 7 million. Got 8 goals and 7 assists in 30 starts last season, so he's averaging a return every other game. So the way I'm looking at Salah is that I've got a 7 million midfielder for 6.5. That said, there's obviously some uncertainty around Palace this season. Will they lose Eze? And if they do, is that really going to affect their attack? I think it could. And obviously they're playing European football. We don't know what competition they'll be in. If it's the Conference League, maybe they will play weaker sides in the Conference League. But if not, if they're playing Europa League, is there going to be significant rotation with Salah? I just don't know. There is some uncertainty there. But I think for 6.5, I think the value is there, and that's why he's locked in at the moment in my team. So my second 6.5, I've gone for Njai. Now, I think he's a good option at 6.5. He's the only 6.5 midfielder that I can think of that has penalties. He's super popular at the moment in game week 1 because he's got Leeds away, and Everton's fixtures just in general for the opening 6 are very good. I do think he's a good option. I wouldn't say he's a perfect option because his stats aren't great outside of penalties. I think there could be a haul there for him in game week 1 if he starts. There is actually some concern that he won't start. He did get dropped for a few games towards the end of the season, but I do think he is relatively nailed, so that's why I've got him in my team at the moment. Moving on to the 7 mil midfielders. Now I'll start by talking about Morgan Rogers, who has great opening fixtures. And I look at Rodgers and I think he's a way, unfortunately I don't have Ollie Watkins in this draft, he's a way that I can access that Villa attack without having Watkins and save 2 million in the process. So Watkins I do think will outscore Morgan Rogers, but I don't think he's going to outscore him so significantly that that 2 million saving isn't worth it. You know what you're getting with Morgan Rogers, he plays 90 minutes every week, he's an absolute machine. There's consistency. I will say that his stats aren't the best, but he's always delivered results, so I have no reason to think that he won't do that. And especially with his fixtures, the start of this season, I think he's just a great pick. Then coming in, we got Semenyo, who got 11 goals and 7 assists last season. And I'm just going to say it now, if he did not have Liverpool away in game week 1, his ownership would be a lot higher. I actually think he's the best option at that 7 mil price point. Obviously the game week 1 fixture isn't great, but outside of that, they get really good. So I'll just quickly mention some of the players that I'm missing in this team. Obviously there's no Salah. His opening few fixtures aren't great, but I will say Bournemouth at home in game week 1, I think he is the best captain. He seems to score just brace after brace against Bournemouth. It's really frustrating. The only time I don't remember him scoring a brace against us is actually the 9-0 at Anfield. Couple that with the fact that he always seems to score on the opening day, and I think Liverpool are going to be really up for that opening game of this season. They obviously sadly lost Jota throughout the summer, so that's going to play some impact on that game, I'm sure. But they're also retaining their title defence, or starting their title defence. So for that reason, I do think he is probably the best captain in game week 1. Nova seems a little bit silly, but I do actually think he might not start in game week 1 against Bournemouth, and that's just playing on my mind a little bit. Does Slot say, because of how well Liverpool played last season, does he say, Szoboszlai, you play in midfield for this opening game week? Does he say, you know, Gakpo, you're going to play on the left this week? I think he could, and that's just playing on my mind a little bit. I do think he's a really good option. The only reason he's not in my squad at the moment is because of that doubt for game week 1, and then game weeks 2 and 3 aren't great for him. So there's definitely reason to go without Liverpool players if you want to justify it the way that I've just justified it. But I'm not stupid. I know if Ertz does start in game week 1, and I know if Liverpool start the season really well, their players could really punish me. Another player I don't have that could obviously punish me is Cole Palmer. Now, he's 10.5. If he was the same price as Saka, I would definitely have Cole Palmer in my team. But because Saka's a little bit cheaper, and Saka has a much lower ownership, it's just making me sway towards him. I think I don't want to weaken another position in my team to bring Palmer in and have that pick that's very template and that everyone has. I think Saka is still an amazing option, and he's much lower owned. I'm just picturing this scenario. Imagine Saka scores in game week 1 and Palmer blanks in game week 1. When it gets to game week 2 and Saka has got Leeds at home, everyone is going to be moving from Palmer to Saka, and I'm just willing to back in those opening couple of game weeks that Saka outperforms Palmer. It's going to be close, but I think he might, and that's just what's swaying me towards Saka at the moment. In terms of the 6.5s, the only others that I've considered are Matoma, Ahmad and Murphy. The only reason I've not got for Murphy is because his minutes are obviously going to be affected by the arrival of Elanga. I've not gone for Ahmad because there's a good chance that he's going to play deeper this season, and you don't really want a midfielder playing wing back. You want them in a more attacking role. And obviously I know Amarin's wing backs tend to be quite attacking, but they're not as attacking as, say, a right winger from one of the top 6 teams or anything like that. So that's just why I've not gone for Ahmad. Matoma's an interesting one because he's very underlooked. He also got a lot of goals and assists last season, so he's definitely an option. At the moment, I've just gone for Sarr and Njai, but that could easily change by game week 1. The 7 mil options, the only other 3 that I've considered are Sharda, Maddison and Kluivert. Kluivert is basically just Semenyo with penalties, but I just think he's got slightly less goal threat. And as a Bournemouth fan, I can actually say I'm not 100% sure that he would start every game, whereas I'm 100% sure that when Semenyo's fit, he's going to start every game. I don't think that with Kluivert. I think every now and then, Iraola can maybe play Tavernier as a 10 and maybe Dango Atara on the left and drop Kluivert to the bench. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. The only reason I want to talk about Maddison quickly is because of the 7 mil options, I think if everyone was to play 90 minutes, I think Maddison would quite easily get the most points. I think his goals and his assists per start is just absolutely incredible. And that's just why I wanted to give him a little mention. He's not in my team because I don't think he is going to start. But it's just something to be aware of, because if he does get into that Spurs 11 or there's an injury somewhere and he has to come into the 11, then I think he is a very good option, and I think he's someone that people would bring in if that were to happen. Another player definitely worth a mention of those 7 mil options is Sharda. In my opinion, he has the most goal threat of all those 7 mil options. The only reason he's not in my team is because I do think his goal threat is hindered by the fact that Mbeumo's left and the fact that Visser might leave as well. Not only that, but Thomas Frank has left as well, so that's definitely going to have a part on Brentford's season. Will that affect their performances? I don't know, And because there's that uncertainty there, I'm just not going for him. As you might have guessed from my midfielders, I do have Erling Haaland in this team. And it's crazy how low his ownership is for the fixtures he has and for what he can deliver. It's like people have forgotten how good he was in the opening season and also at the start of last season. The guy is an absolute beast, and with those fixtures, I just can't ignore him. So yeah, there's not much more I need to say about Haaland. I will just mention though, if he does manage to outperform Salah in his opening few game weeks, I think it can definitely help your ranks. So it's definitely worth the risk. And you know he's going to get points, so it's not exactly like it's a huge risk. I do think City are going to start the season strongly, and there's not really much more I need to say about Haaland, is there? He's just a good pick. Next up we have Jarrod Bowen, who is actually a player I don't think I've ever owned, which is quite mad considering how many goals and assists that he consistently gets season after season. He's got Sunderland away in game week 1, and I mentioned earlier about saving some money with Morgan Rogers. Well, I've gone for Morgan Rogers over Watkins, and I think I can recreate the Watkins points with Jarrod Bowen and save $1 million as well. Bowen outscored Watkins last season, and while I don't expect that to happen again this season, there is still an opportunity to save some money and spread that money elsewhere in your team. So I do think that Bowen could provide amazing value. He doesn't have the best underlying stats, but Sunderland away in game week 1, you just can't ignore it. And I think, yeah, he's a good pick. If you want to start with him, go for it. And the final forward that I've gone for in my front three is Solanke. And I do expect Tottenham to have a better season this season. They've got good opening fixtures. Solanke is nailed on 90 minutes, especially if they don't sign Wissa that they've been linked with. I think he's going to get good minutes. He's could potentially have penalties. And even though people have pointed out that he didn't have as good a season last season, he still got a return every other game that he started. Got 9 goals, 5 assists in 26 starts. So it's not bad for a 7.5 million forward. And I do think that he could provide some value there. But why Solanke over the other 7.5 mil forwards? I'll start with João Pedro here because I do not understand the obsession with João Pedro. He's coming into a Chelsea team where he's got a lot more competition than he did at Brighton. He's now got Champions League to compete with as well. Is there going to be extra rotation there? Because he is very injury prone. He's missed virtually half the season in the last 2 seasons. He's not going to get penalties like he did last season. He's not going to be able to take them from Cole Palmer. So 10 goals, 6 assists I think it was last season. 5 of his goals were penalties. So straight away he's down to 5 goals, 6 assists. If there's better options, why not go for the better options? Coupled with the fact that he's going to be rotated more and he's more injury prone, I just can't see why he's a good pick. And a lot of people will counter that, well, Chelsea's attack is a lot better than Brighton's. That's not actually true. Brighton scored more goals than Chelsea last season. So in theory, Brighton's attack's actually better than Chelsea's. I do think João Pedro definitely improves Chelsea's attack, but is it a lot better than Brighton's that is so night and day that he's a must-have pick now? I just don't see it. Because of the certainty of minutes, I'm just going for Solanke. If I was looking purely at stats, I'd probably go for Wissa because he has the best stats of all the 7.5 mil options. There's just a little bit of uncertainty with his Brentford future, and I think if he goes to another club, even if it's in the Premier League, I think there's more uncertainty over his minutes. If he locks in and says, I'm staying at Brentford, and he signs a new contract, I think I would probably go for him. But because there's that uncertainty there, and because the deadline is before the transfer deadline at the end of August, I'm just not going anywhere near him. And then you have Chris Wood, who obviously performed exceptional last season, though it did slow down towards the end of the season. He's got good fixtures, and I'd say probably the best fixtures of all the 7.5 mil options. But is there going to be some rotation there with European football that Forest are now playing? I'm not sure. He's obviously a bit older than a lot of the other players, so is he going to be able to play 90 minutes in the league and 90 minutes in Europe every week? I'm just not so sure. I also think there might be a slowdown in his returns this season just because of that slowdown towards the end of the season. So for now, that's my front three. Who knows, it might change nearer the deadline, but for now, I'm settled with those 3. Now, with every draft, there's obviously other options of combinations that you can go with. For instance, I could drop Ndai to perhaps a 5 mil midfielder that's more defensive and then go from Semenyo to Wirtz. The only reason I've not done that is because I think I don't really want that defensive option. I just want to be a little bit more attacking, and I just think an attacking midfielder is more exciting than a defensive midfielder. Yes, the defensive midfielder will probably get consistent points because of their defensive contribution points, but I just don't think I want to be that guy that goes for that defensive mid. I want to be exciting. I want to take that risk that the attacking players will deliver, and that's the only reason I've not gone for sort of that combination. I could downgrade Tarkowski to someone like Mykolenko at 5 million, who obviously has the same fixtures as Tarkowski, and that would allow me to get Palmer instead of Saka. That's something I've considered. I just don't think I'm going to go for it because Tarkowski will pick up defensive contribution points. I'm not sure Mykolenko will. Will Palmer and Mykolenko outperform Saka and Tarkowski? It's so close, but just because the Saka combination is probably more differential, that's the only reason I'm sort of going for him. I could also not have a premium midfielder altogether. I could just get rid of Saka for Wirtz and then upgrade Solanke to Watkins, and then I wouldn't need Morgan Rogers. I could free that up to another 7 mil option. And finally, obviously, I could go for Salah over Haaland. If I was going to do that, I'd go from Haaland to Danny Welbeck and Morgan Rogers to Salah. Now, obviously, I could do that, but I do think that Haaland and Morgan Rogers outperforms Salah and Welbeck. That being said, when I see Salah's 50% ownership, captain him in game week 1, it might terrify me to move to him, but that remains to be seen. So there you have it. There's my FPL team reveal for game week 1. Let me know in the comments what you think of the team and also my thought process, because I'm having all sorts of doubts over my player picks, and I'm sure you're having doubts over this team too. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and look for the pinned comment if you'd like to join the Expect FPL Mini League. Game week 1 is getting really close now, and I'm sure it's going to be really competitive. So that's all from me. I'll see you in the next video.